What's up, everyone? Welcome to a special episode of Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming to you live from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold story behind athletics, big business, corporate America, the private sector, politics, entrepreneurship, and the entertainment world, then this is the show for you. Being a part of most of these and having family and friends involved in them at one point in time in their lives, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in these careers. Now let's try to unmask them. A few of them, try to unmask a few of them today. Today's guest is a young lady, and she's a special young lady who I had a chance to see grow from 9th grade to 12th grade. She's a Oxon Hill grad, so a former athlete, golfer that is, and a former manager of the boys basketball team. And then once she graduated from high school, she decided to take her talents to North Carolina State University in Raleigh, where once she finished her degree, she decided to move up to New York City to begin a career in fashion. And it's kind of like once that didn't work out, she turned to journalism, where she began writing sports-related content as the senior staff writer for the Green magazine. That led to broadcast journalism as a production assistant / writer at CBS News 48 Hours. With her success to storytelling and passion, it led to her HBO producing stories on the award-winning show or sports journalism series, Real Sports with Brian Gumble. Last year, she was one of the producers for the Netflix documentary Crack, Cocaine, Corruption, and Conspiracy. Also acting as a segment producer with BET News. And I want to say welcome to the show. This is a young lady. I'm excited. I had a chance to bring her on. We've been talking about this for a couple of months now. Oxon Hill, she's a native of Oxon Hill, Maryland. NAIMAH JABALI-NASH. How are you, NAIMAH?
Thank you, Coach Barrett. I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Well, look, I know, you can tell how proud of you that I am. I'm excited. I'm to do this interview because, 5 Emmys you've won and 2 Peabody Awards, the 4 Producers Guild of America Awards and the National Association of Black Journalists Award. Wasn't even mentioned at the beginning. Hope I'm not bragging too much, but I'm just so proud of you and that all you've done in a short career. And I know the bigger things are here to follow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be on your show, and I really do appreciate the support. Thank you.
Well, look, you're welcome. And this is what we're here for, to get unmasked. So a lot of people, this is actually coming up on almost 1 year of being unmasked, over 100 some interviews. So it's just different, like I said, special episodes. So first question I like to ask, whether with sports, entrepreneurs, or now you in the kind of the entertainment world, like, tell me a little bit about your career. And you can talk about this, your career path, and what led you to the roles that you're in, today.
Yeah, you listed off some of the places where I've been, but I think it's just been a matter of pivoting and curiosity. When I was in high school and growing up, I really enjoyed reading and writing. Writing was always kind of a sense of refuge for me, in a way that I could explain myself a lot better than speaking. And so I had, from a very young age, an affinity to the written word. And so that has just seemingly evolved over the years. My mother was always very much a proponent for asking questions. And so when I was in elementary school and middle school, running for the bus, you ask questions, that always didn't serve me well. I didn't have probably the best way about going about it, when I was younger. So sometimes it got me in trouble, is basically what I'm saying. But I think she, unbeknownst to herself, created this sense of curiosity and this sense of skepticism that I think is healthy to have as a journalist and as a writer. So yeah, I wanted to write for fashion magazines when I got out of college. Had the opportunity to do an internship when I moved to New York while also writing for the Green magazine. And that internship was going to be unpaid, but it was going to be for more days than I had budgeted for, quite frankly. And so to be asked to work 5 days a week for no money was not a part of my spirit. Didn't sit well with my soul. So I decided not to take that and really just go all in with writing at the Green magazine. And what was great at the Green was, in terms of the writers on the staff, we were led by Sabukwe Odinga, the other staff writer there, Lawrence Bass. It was a very small staff. It was, but I was the only one who played golf of the writers. So I had that little edge and that knowledge and that background. So instead of writing about fashion like I thought I wanted to do, I was writing about golf, something I really loved doing, and to be able to write features and how-to kind of columns and pieces about golf courses and things like that. It was really fun. And so that magazine folded after a couple of years of me writing there. And then, you live in New York and you just trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. And in doing that led me to CBS. But even before I got to CBS, I was hustling and working at a interior design firm, which I hated. Like, I was also working at J. Crew. I had like so many jobs. And because I was just trying to figure out how I can stay in getting paid to write. And so my sister had a friend who worked at CBS, and CBS has a page program. They did at the time. I'm sure they probably still do. CBS and NBC had this page program. And so basically you get paid a very modest amount to work at a news organization and to be able to pop around at the different shows underneath the umbrella. But because I had a writing background, the executive producer at 48 Hours and that team really just kind of put their arms around me, and I didn't have to float around. I was grateful in that way. And I was really just writing for CBSnews.com, the blog crime citer. And when I was finished doing that work, I would go over to the sports section in the .com newsroom and write more golf stories, because that's what I kind of like to do. I didn't like really writing about crime. But I was able to get bylines, digital bylines. I had print bylines. So I was like, okay, so now I'm getting some digital bylines under the CBS, brand. And so I thought that was valuable. And when that page tenure was about to end, I started to talk to Susan Zorinsky about what does it take to tell a story for television. And so that's when I got hired as a production secretary and started to navigate from there. So it's always been kind of a sense of curiosity or trying to challenge myself and maybe evolve all around this within storytelling.
I mean, that's awesome. And I heard a lot of educational things, and then I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. You pivoted and you figured it out, because that's what life is about. Especially you in New York City. I was in New York, so I can tell you, like, it's different. It is different. So, yeah. What's one thing that you wish you had known when you began your career?
To not be so timid to ask about money. I'm just in a space now where I'm comfortable talking about it, especially being in the freelance space. Like, great, this is a great idea, this is a great team. That, whether I'm trying to pitch my own ideas and get funding for them, or someone is pitching something to me and wants me to be a part of their project, I'm like, money is very close up in the timeline of the conversation. And so I think, especially coming from from news. I like, how much, I mean, I don't want to ask for this. Maybe they won't want me if I ask for too much money. And so, yeah, I wish I would have known that.
That's a great answer, actually. So yeah, money's important. I believe it is. What does a work day look like for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, now it looks a little bit different. I'm in between projects, but once I get on a project, usually the start of it is you're in the research and development phase, what we call pre-production. There's a lot of reading, there's a lot of calls, there's a lot of talking to people, and curating information. You're essentially starting from scratch, and depending on what that subject matter is, you're trying to become really deeply knowledgeable about a certain thing. For real sports, because we were a monthly broadcast, it would happen, that turnover was a lot quicker, right? Like, so I do a piece on Lewis Hamilton. I'm reading about Formula One. I want to know everything there is to know about Lewis Hamilton and his brother, Nicholas. And so it could vary from project to project, but now in the freelance space, you have a certain amount of pre-production time. So you're researching. Then when you're in and figuring out who you want to talk to, where are those people located? Also, outside of the interviews, what aesthetically and stylistically you're trying to do. So you're having conversations with your directors of photography and figuring out what verite scenes we're shooting to really kind of make the narrative visually come alive and be something that viewers can really be engaged in. And so you do all the filming, and now you're in the editing phase, and you're sitting down with your editor or editors, and after you watch down your interviews, you're making what we call your selects, and that basically means like the best parts of the interview, or the parts of the interview that are going to help you tell the story that you're trying to tell. And the editing process is pretty long and extensive because it takes time. And then after that, you're in the post-production phase, making it look beautiful and sound beautiful for everybody to check it out. So there's a certain timeline for each one of those stages. But yeah, I start a new gig on Monday, so I'll be right back in the saddle.
Wow, I'm glad that you're saying this so people don't realize, like, no, it's not easy. So that's the one thing I want people to understand. And you kind of talked about your in-between projects, about to start a new gig on Monday, but what is something that you finished up, some big project? And I know you can't talk about it as much, but I know you can mention it. I just don't know how much you can talk about it, but and I kind of mentioned it a little earlier, but what's one of the biggest projects that you finished up in the last few months?
In the last few months, well, I have a documentary series that will be coming out the end of this month and at the beginning of June. It's called The Knockouts. I was one of the producers on that series, and it'll be airing on ABC, and the next day it'll be airing on Hulu. So I think the first air date is the 25th of May, and then the following Tuesday, June the 1st, will be the second part. So 2 hours each night, 4 hours total on Mike Tyson. And so that's coming. And before that, I finished a special on Sesame Street, which was fun. So it's like taking a look at their 50 plus years of being on air and seeing how they've been able to stay on air, and also talking about the new Black Muppet family that they have called the Walker family, talking to children and to families about race and racial identity, and hopefully giving parents the tools to be able to have these conversations that need to be happening for children at a very young age. And Sesame Street is the best place to kind of get some help on how to do that. And the crack film aired at the top of 2021. Like, time is so just kind of like, where are we in all of this? So that was the first project I got on after I left HBO. And so that's been well received, and I'm really proud of that one.
And I'm proud of it too. It's interesting because you actually sent me the trailer back in December. We're talking, and so I was like, okay, I looked at the trailer, and then one day, a couple of my guys, basketball friends, we're on a Zoom. We're talking. There's 20 of us. Hey man, y'all should check out this documentary on Netflix. And the guy said the name, and I was like, hold up, that sounds familiar. Yeah. And I actually had to go back and look at the text message we were talking about, we exchanging, and I was like, yo, yeah, my former manager was a producer on that. And so I hadn't even thought of it, and I was like, I have to go and watch it. So, like, I hadn't seen it yet, but everyone, they were saying, yo, you need to go see it. So you're definitely right. It's very well received. I know a lot of people in the basketball world, especially guys who, kind of lived that era, they actually love it. And they've been passing the word on to a lot of people. So I say kudos to you on that one. I'm gonna ask you this question. I don't like to use this word a lot of times, but it's just how it is. What has been your biggest failure, and like, what did you learn from it? Because when you do, like, the thing is, some people talk about they don't like using failure, but everything is a learning that you learn from what you do and that they're not successful at. What was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Good question. I think it's less of like a watershed moment or one event for me, really. I think it's more like a line of thought. This line of thought when I feel like, oh, I'm not supposed to be in this space, or I'm feeling like I have imposter syndrome, or those negative things are things that can kind of breed me being stagnant or negative in my head. And I think that more over one time where I made a mistake or several times where I made mistakes is more, I think, powerful than anything. So I think it's how I talk to myself and the stories I tell myself, and remind myself that whatever negative things I'm saying, there really isn't any evidence to substantiate it, and remember that. And so I think that's more so what it is getting out of my own way.
I like that. I mean, you say it's like, you're telling the story to yourself. So most people are like, wow, that's interesting. But I think that's probably smart. Like, you got to hear it yourself, before you can actually express it. I'm sure that's a little bit of your thinking on that part.
Yeah, it's like when I was playing golf, if I was on a tee box and I'm like, don't hit it left, don't hit it left, don't hit it left, I'm going to hit it left, instead of saying instead of telling myself this is what I want to do, instead of talking about what I don't want to do. So I think it's just rephrasing the conversations we have with ourselves.
Awesome. What do you enjoy most about your work, and what are you most excited about right now?
I think I enjoy the most is meeting people, is the phase of discovery that we have in our process. There's a certain amount of research, and you want to be knowledgeable about who you're sitting down with, or the idea or the subject matter, but also leaving space to understand that you're not going to know everything. And so, or what you thought you knew, you discover that that's not true, or the story is evolving in a different way, and you have to kind of be open to that. So I really like the discovery process, or the revelation process, if you will, and the trust that you really have with people who engage with you, who choose to share themselves with you. And I think it's a huge responsibility to have that relationship with people who choose to trust us with their stories. What am I most excited about right now? I think just like this creative space, being home and not being with your team, there's you lose something in that creative process. And so to see how people have been able to kind of navigate through that has been inspiring to me, just as people are still telling stories. And I think that it has inspired me to take ownership and try and create stories on my own terms. So I created a production company last year, and I'm really trying to, in addition to, working on other projects, trying to shepherd through ideas that I've been sitting on for a while and really want to try and get out there and into the world. So I think I'm just excited to create and know that, no matter what kind of life throws at us, we get down and we get back up and we figure out how to pivot.
Man, congratulations on the production company. That has to be exciting within itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What are the best resources that have helped you along the way?
Resources like skills or
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think writing, also keyboarding. Like the class I took in high school that like helps me out the most is keyboarding. I lied to you not, like the home row key game is real. Like that efficiency with typing has helped me tenfold. But I think so that and the things I kind of learned in my journalism courses have also been helpful. I think a lot of it too is just experience. You have to learn by doing. I was talking to my nephew's 8th grade class this morning, and one thing I told them when I was showing them one of my scripts is that the first version is never the version that's going to be the one that airs in the end. And so sometimes we can be precious about what we do. And I think there's a certain level of, yes, we should want to do well. We should want it to be great, but like, you just got to start. So I think my, classes in creative writing, my journalism classes, learning how to fact check, typing or keyboarding, those things have been quite resourceful. And a lot of the things I just learned along the way, just in terms of like very technical things in the field and editing programs and, production jargon and all of that kind of stuff is really just hands-on experience in observing and asking questions when you're doing it.
Wow. No, and I was interested because you said you read a lot. What about any books that were like, they were resources that might have helped you in some things or things like that?
I read a lot for pleasure. I mean, there was one book, Heat and Light, I think it's what it's called. And I'm forgetting, the authors are escaping me, but I think they're two journalists from CBS, but they were kind of talking about their careers and the things that kind of stood out to them in their life. And so that was one, just in terms of like interviewing and how to establish rapport or things that you can do that can work to your advantage, or how you should go about verifying things and how you pull the viewer in. And so that, in terms of like specificity of what it is that I do, that was a book that was helpful at that time. But books kind of draw me to things again that I'm curious about. So I read a shit ton of golf books. I don't know who else does that, but yeah, I think that one, in terms of just like the technical things that I do, was probably really helpful at the time. But just in general, I think reading helps because you learn cadence and tone and rhythm. And so I think that there is some rollover or a benefactor or beneficiary to the writing that I do, I think.
Good. I'm gonna Heat and Light. I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna definitely check that out. I like that. What are some of the biggest challenges you face day to day, but then some of the biggest rewards?
Biggest challenges day to day. I think in this, again, not being physically in the same space. Currently, are you still here? Oh. Currently, a challenge I would say is just thinking through ideas, brainstorming, because like I'm here by myself. And so obviously I can pick up the phone and talk to my editor or an associate producer or whoever I'm working with on the project. But I think that part is challenging, just not being able to kind of like pop in and like, what do you think about this? And talking story through. I think the rewards, what are the rewards on a day-to-day? There's a bit more flexibility with like being able to dictate your schedule, right? Like it could be good and bad because I could go really, I won't have like a turn off period in terms of like my laptop's always open. I'm like, oh, got this, let me write this down or whatever. So I have to, create boundaries for myself. But I think just even trying to be more disciplined with that is a good thing, and making sure that I'm more conscious and aware of going outside and taking some time to walk. And especially now, I think I've become more present in what it is that I'm doing and more intentional. So understanding that work is important, but it's not everything. So I think really just kind of like loving Harlem in a way that is different pre-pandemic.
Okay, like that. Who are three people that has been or who have been the most influential to you?
Three people. I would say my mama, my baba, my parents. So those are two. And I have so many people professionally that it's really,
that's a hard one. That's probably a hard one.
It's really, I'm really fortunate to have to be stuck on this one. Yeah, let's see. I have a really good friend, Leah Williams, who I have to say, just in segue, she also used to work at HBO Real Sports and left, and has had a successful career in the freelance space and has directed and produced so many things. And so just to have the ear, the support, and the guidance when I need it from another very successful Black woman in production is, I think, invaluable. So she's someone who I definitely confide in a lot, or tap for advice, and vice versa.
Okay. Well, I knew mom and dad would be in there. That was a given. So
okay.
I knew that. I just know that relationship. I just know that one.
Yeah.
You actually talked about it. You spoke with your nephew's 8th grade class.
Yeah.
This morning, and I'm gonna ask you this because I'm more even the older kids. Like, what piece of advice would you give to a high school, college graduate who wants to get into storytelling and producing? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. I think now there's less of a barrier to entry, right? Like you have your phone in your hand and you can just start, And so I think it's, even for me, sometimes now I have to have like this in place and this in place and this in place. And so again, that's me like trying to get out of my own way. But my advice would be is if you are interested in something, just to go for it, even if it's something that you film on your phone, or you do on a camera that you might think is not like the best equipment. I also would say, no one gets to where they are by themselves, and so the wealth of my I've been fortunate enough leaving HBO to be able to navigate in this freelance space because I have established such great relationships with people I previously worked with. And so I think just bearing in mind that you might need somebody at some point down the road and they might need you. So having a certain level of respect and kindness as you walk through this profession. But yeah, and it's going to be a whole lot of hard work. You know, it's not producer sounds fancy. Some people don't even know what that means. You know, like there's this thing, there's this picture I share with some of my girlfriends who are all in the production space, like what your mom thinks you do, what your friends think you do, what the crew thinks you do, what you really do, and it's all, you know, how people define what being a producer is. And so, but it's really about you know, doing the work that kind of needs to be done. So it's not always it's not fun all the time, you know. I don't think any job is. That's why it's work. But yeah, I think those are the things I would say is be respectful, be kind. You never know when you're going to need somebody or they might need you. Just start, shoot the thing that you wanted to shoot, write the story that you've been wanting to write. And it's going to take time. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
That is all true right there. What would you say are the top 3 things that you need to do to be a successful storyteller and producer? Because like you got this skills, yes, you talked about it a little early, but what do you think are the 3 things that you need to do to be very successful as a storyteller or producer?
Mm-hmm. I think you need to be able to listen. I think some of the great interviewers that I've watched over the years, they're able, when they're listening, they're present in the interview, and they're able to pick up on things that they didn't have down on their paper. And so to be able to kind of in real time go with someone where the conversation is taking you, and to do that dance with them, and you see someone really be able to do that well, it's a beautiful thing to see. So I think listening, because I'm off camera and I'm listening to the interview to make sure we're getting, you know, the sound that we need if I'm working with a correspondent. When I'm doing the interviews, I'm trying to make sure I'm utilizing that skill to not step on a person when they're thinking about something, to allow them, give them time to respond. So I think listening, I think, and it's also listening to your colleagues, right? Like you're not going to always have the best idea. It is a very collaborative process. And sometimes it can feel like a personal attack when somebody doesn't agree with you. So I think that's a very good quality to have. I think being flexible is another quality, because when you're out in the field and you're on location, shit just happens. You just gotta like fucking figure it out. So because you can't just be like, well, it was supposed to go this way, and like, but it's not going this way. So you have to be able to be nimble and to react, you know, in a way that you can still get what you need and come back with what you need to do the story. So that's another thing I would say, is to try to be flexible, not be so rigid in the process. I think another thing is just to know your shit. Like, you know, go in and not in a way that like, you know, you're cocky about it or anything like that. Again, there is that discovery process when you're doing it, you know, being open to it. Because some people, you know, might go in and try and show how much information they know, but you're also trying to learn something too. You're trying to not regurgitate or get the same answers that you read in an article. You're also trying to find something new about this person or this idea that you thought you knew. So I think I can't say, you know, research enough, like whether it's about the story, the subject matter, or even like how you learn more is asking questions in the field. Like when I started to go on locations with real sports, I didn't go on location that much with with 48 hours. So when I was out there on Real Sports, I'm like, what does that number on the camera mean? Why you have the light over there? Why you got the light over here? Like, yeah. So I think, but you hold all of that, and so and then you are able to tell that to the next person who comes behind you. So I think those three things is like try to be as knowledgeable as you can about what it is that you're walking into. Understand that things don't always go to plan. So be open to the change that will come, not if it comes, that it will come, and know how to be flexible to it, and be able to listen.
Those are three great nuggets you dropped, and also mom will be proud of you because you're still asking questions even later on on set. So she'll be proud of you. What tricks have you discovered to keep you focused and productive in your day-to-day business schedule?
Let's see. I've discovered the use of a timer, because again, I will go, sometimes people have to force me, like, close your laptop, I'll stay on, and check an email and all of that. Or if I get stuck on something, I step away. Let me give myself an hour or two, step away and go do something else and come back to it. If I have to work on a weekend, in order to salvage some of the weekend, I'm like, I'm going to dedicate 4 hours or 3. This is as much time as I'm giving to this. And so I don't think that I kind of really exercised that before. It's something small, but it does make a difference for me, because that's, again, boundaries have been something that I've been trying to work on with myself, because you can really burn out.
Man, timer. That's actually man, I might have to use that myself. Timer. I like that. Now, you talked about the most influential people. I'm gonna ask you, who has been your greatest inspiration? And it may be the same answer. It may be your parents as one, but like, who has been your greatest inspiration?
Yeah, I really do admire Ava DuVernay. Like, like, if I ever get the chance to meet her, I probably won't say anything. I'll probably just stare at her. But her story is just, it's inspiring to me, for her to have been working in the PR space on these big films and being on set and being like, I would do it this way. And why is that shot being filmed from over here? And, again, her curiosity, and how you would do it. And, she didn't go to film school. She watched a lot of director's cut DVDs, and listened to the best on how they do their craft. And I think, again, with that, in saying it, I'm also saying to myself, just starting, she, made her first movie, and now we know her to be the Peabody Award winning, amazing storyteller, that she is. And not only just what she does, but I think she also creates a space for other creatives and other women and other creators of color to really expand and amplify our stories. And so she, to me, is someone who I really admire.
I like that. I like her. I like that a lot. So I'm gonna ask you, what, and I don't have to be what sacrifices, or are there any sacrifices that you have had to make with you being in your profession?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think sacrifices of time. Even though Real Sports was a monthly broadcast, I always felt like I was missing something outside my personal life. Like, I felt like I could plan it, but the plan never really worked. It seemed like, oh, I gotta travel here and do this story, so I have to miss this birthday, or this, I can't come home. And so I feel like those are the kinds of things. It's just missing events or special time with friends and family.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? And I feel you on that. That's the same thing that's in the coaching profession. Everyone, you don't, we work 355, 360 days out the year. Right. You don't have, you know, your vacation is probably 1 month, which is either August or May. You only get married at a certain time. You only, so I can understand, like, you do have to sacrifice family time because you're constantly working. Your days you don't have a normal 9 to 5. And I truly understand that. Mm-hmm. What motivates you? That's going to be my interest. What motivates you?
Oh, that's a good one. That one's hard. What motivates me? I think watching stories and other storytellers, when I watch something that makes me smile or makes me think, oh, like, I wonder how they got that shot, or like, this is interesting. I never thought about something this way, again, like, the kind of storytelling that Ava DuVernay does. She can straddle the documentary space with 13th and then go into scripted with a series like When They See Us. And so I think just being a fan of other people's work and seeing that it doesn't always have to be perfect, or you don't always have to have the answers to something. And so I think that is what it is. It's just seeing other people's work, especially work that's led by women.
I like that. I definitely respect that. I love it. What is your greatest fear, and how do you manage fear?
I don't know. I think my greatest fear is probably settling, like just being like, yeah, because I wouldn't say settling is being content, but I think just yeah, like if I don't like something, like not changing it, and thus far, when I have been not fulfilled or satisfied, I've asked myself, okay, so what do I have to do? Let me plan my exit strategy, and where do I want to go next to not feel this way? And so I think how I combat fear, and by the way, my production company is called Fearless Minds. So that's why I started laughing. Because I think, the reason why I was inspired to do it, to name my production company Fearless Minds, is because I don't think that we could ever be without fear. And I'm not suggesting that people try to live their lives that way because it's impossible, but doing things regardless, anyway, even if you are fearful of it, just walking through that. And so I think I combat fear by arming myself with knowledge about what I'm fearful of, and also naming it. I'm scared because blah 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 blah. These are the doubts that I have. I think sometimes when we don't name something, it becomes like this big kind of like monster in the corner that kind of grows. And so, I talk through those things with my family, with my friends, with my therapist. Music is very therapeutic. So I think, being as knowledgeable as you can and with what you have helps appease and relieve some of that fear.
Man, terrific answer right there. How do you define success? Because people define success so many ways, but how do you define it?
I think success looks like doing what you want to do. I like, when I get Fearless Minds up and running, like, I'm just like, I just want to do dope shit with dope people. Like, I want to be able to say, we did that. We feel good about the work that we put out there. We put something out into the universe, and we feel proud of it. We did our best, and that to me feels like success. When you're able to have your own agency and power over the work that you do, because your name is behind it. Like,
yeah, man, I mean, you're right. I love that answer. It's just, you know, hey, putting out dope stuff, man, and like I like it. Like that's what you, because like I just see it so many times that people, you know, like in basketball, they say, oh, wins and losses. Well, I don't define it that way. I define it on the amount of kids who graduate and go on and be productive citizens. So you got different ways how people look at things. And I just like to ask that question because I like to hear people answers. And it's also so people can see it's more than one way to skin a cat. Everyone has different reasons, but how they look at defining success.
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you this question: like, what is the one common myth about your profession or field that you want to debunk?
I don't know. Let's see. One common myth about my profession that I like to debunk. I guess that it's easy, you know. I mean, and maybe people don't assume that it's easy, but they don't really know what it is, right? Like, so again, producer is a very broad, can mean it's a broad title and can mean different things in different areas. And so a lot of the work that I do involves so many different responsibilities. You're leading a team, you're finding stories, you're pitching them, you're writing scripts, you're directing when you're out there on location and talking to your DPs about how you want things to look. And so I think people don't realize how many different roles you have to play within this title of being a producer. So I think that that's probably a myth. You know, when you sit down and watch something on television, I don't think you realize, like, you know, if a photo comes up, maybe how hard it was for an AP or somebody to find that photo, you know, like those little, I most certainly didn't know. So I think that's what it is. I think people don't really know how many details go into that, and maybe just have a very narrow view of what a producer looks like.
I'm glad you got that myth out there. I'm so happy. What's something like they don't know, people that don't know you, but they work with you or they just see you. What does something people misunderstand about you?
Something people misunderstand about me. I think because I'm a very straightforward person. I think, yeah, sometimes people will say, like, you know, I'm mysterious or something like that. I'm very much like, we are here to do a job that we're all getting paid for. And you know, we could have a great rapport, but after that, you know, it's like, okay, goodbye. So I don't know. I guess maybe people don't understand that. Like, I don't like to use the term like we're all a family. I'm like, we're not a family. We're all getting paid to do this, and like, we all want to do a good job. Let's do a good job. But we family, we are not, you know. And so I don't really come at it with that. And like, maybe because that's you know, not the energy that I am putting out there, that I can maybe seem like, you know, not as friendly until people get to know me. So maybe that's something.
Okay. It's interesting. You talked about family. A coach was on, and he said he kind of hates that word. I didn't say hate it, but because when you say, you know, you go and you put it into the whole 1, 2, 3 family, he's like, family. That's a word. Like when your family's going through stuff, no matter what, you're gonna support and back, right? in athletics, and you would know when you're working with people you work with, everybody's like, oh, we're family. But as soon as one person messes up or they're not doing what you want to do, what do? You kick them to the curb. You don't kick family to the curb. So that I like what you said. Like, no, we're not family. We work together, and that's true. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But everyone always want to say, oh no, we're family. We do this and that together. No, we're not family.
I also think too, it's one of those guilt trip things, you know, like personally, I think that, and that's not to say I don't have friends. That's not to say I haven't made friends, and even when I've left places, I still have my friends from HBO and CBS and all of that. So, but this idea, I think the family aspect kind of like tries to remove the professionalism out of it. So if someone doesn't want to pay you a certain amount of money, you know, it's like, we family. It's like, no, we're not. Rent's due on the 1st, you know, so don't try to use that to try and take advantage. I think that's like a larger problem I have with that.
I love it. I'm gonna kind of reverse roles here right now. I'm gonna ask you this question. If you could step into my shoes right now, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't today?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know.
We'll take that answer. So I'm gonna take it as, okay, yeah, he asked me some pretty good questions. So I'm gonna take it as that. I'll take it as that. So, well, look, I like to end with this question. If you could turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Let's see. I think I would say I definitely was not short on confidence, my 18-year-old self, now that I'm thinking. But I would say, you know, it's going to be hard, but try to be patient. You'll figure it out. Don't be so hard on yourself. And I don't know if that's, you know, realistic, but that to me is still something I'm working on. Be kind to yourself. Life's hard enough as it is, you know. Don't beat yourself up so much. I think that's what I would say, and have fun with it.
Love it. And you definitely didn't lack confidence. That was one thing. I enjoyed being around you for a couple of years. I mean, and like you said, I'm just thinking, like, to get to know you, like, it's just unbelievable. And I'm just, like I said, I'm so proud. But I want to thank you again, you know, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to leave, you know, the viewers with today?
Thank you so much, Coach Barrett. We go way back. I was in, what was it, sports medicine, or what class did we have together? I forget.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but I really appreciate you allowing me to have this space and this platform. I'm still kind of getting comfortable with people asking me questions. So stepping out of my comfort zone and facing the fear, if you will. So yeah, I'm hoping to really kind of create something with Fearless Minds. So there'll be something on the horizon coming soon, and or whenever the universe allows it to happen, but I am working towards that. So it's created, but also I'm just really excited to try and simultaneously push along these passion projects that I have while also doing other work. So TBD.
Awesome. And no, you're welcome. Like I said, I enjoyed it. And it was your SAT prep class.
Oh,
it was the math portion. So that's definitely what it was. I think it might just maybe sophomore, junior year, but that's what it was.
But we were
but
senior year. I was definitely part of the state championship team on senior year. I think a lot of the water that I refilled for the basketball players had a lot to do with that.
Had a ton to do with it. Trust me, it did.
Everybody was hydrated, you know. So
There you go. There you go. Well, I want to thank you viewers for watching this special episode of Unmasked. Stay tuned for the next guests as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.
Thank you.